Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I am Darrell Scott. There are times I've done this show, and we've done almost 150 shows in the course of almost 3 years total. There are certain people you look forward to interviewing because you want to talk to them, you just want to hear them, you want to hear their story and how they got from point A to point B. That would be this young lady. I have been a fan of hers, and we talked about it briefly. She came to Cleveland and she played a club in Cleveland called the Mad Hatter. And it was a great time. I think I said hello to her and that was it. And that, don't get me wrong, that wasn't enough. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the lovely, talented, there's 18,000 adjectives that we could use for her talent and everything else. This is Patrice Rushen. Patrice, how are you today?
I'm well. How are you, Darrell?
I'm doing the best I can with little I got. You can tell I'm nervous because I'm going to be funny. Or at least I'm going to try to be funny. I have followed your career for quite a long time, as you can see from what's behind me, and you can't see what's on the floor because I couldn't prop the other ones up. When did this musical journey begin for you? How did you, as a young child, how did you get to music?
Well, I don't remember not being involved with music because it was everywhere. At home, my parents listened to the radio. They were record collectors. They bought, the jazz and pop music of their day. And so music was just part of the atmosphere. And I was in a nursery school program. Both my parents worked, and my sister is 6 years younger than me. So I was an only child for a short time. And
Mm-hmm.
I was in a nursery school, and the teacher there was very musical. And during the day, when we would be singing and dancing and finger painting and all of this, all the singing and dancing, that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to do that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she told my parents about a program for kids that she thought that I would be a candidate for. And my parents said, okay. And they put me in this program, which happened to be at the University of Southern California. It was a graduate course for master's students who were studying early childhood development.
Mm-hmm.
And they had kids in the class so that they could observe them and develop ideas about how to teach them and whether or not we're all hearing the same things and all this kind of thing. And I was in that class for quite a while, and afterwards they suggest you play an instrument, and piano was suggested for me, and I did that. And I went to music lessons every week while I was through elementary school, junior high school, and in high school learning piano, but also learning other kinds of ways in which to address music. And because of the music I was hearing at home and on the radio and going to dances and stuff like this, it just was all feeding on one another. And I knew I wanted to be involved in music for the rest of my life, although I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do until much later.
Okay, we are going to talk about a lot of different things, and I'm going to jump around a bit. But at this young age, think about where you are now. Where did that wanton desire come from? Is that from instilled from your parents? Is it just that you wanted to be perhaps the greatest female musician there is? What did that come from? How did that get established in your life?
I think every environment that I was in at that time suggested that you needed to be really good at whatever it is you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
At home, I had that example through my parents, working people who were doing
Yes.
their very best and who were, had migrated from the South, to
Mm-hmm.
California. And, the idea of going to school and learning a bunch of things and moving towards something in your life where you could be a contributor, that was just, it wasn't said like that, but as I look back, as you said, I
Mm-hmm.
had examples of that the whole time. When I was in high school, I went to an all-black high school in Los Angeles, Locke, Locke for Alain Leroy Locke. And the idea there was that this was post Watts riots also.
Mm-hmm.
And it was as if our parents were like, y'all are going to do great things because you must, because you have to.
Right. Yes.
And you got each other, and the community rallied around us. And, in small ways, like the marching band and the orchestra at school and the jazz band and things, we were around each other all the time and would push on each other to be as good as we said we wanted to be. And we had examples, in Los Angeles. There was a huge, uh, there was a lot of recording going on with different artists and groups, and there was also the studios, people doing movies and
Mm-hmm.
all this kind of things. And these were faceless people to most people, but they were making big money doing
Right.
what they loved because they were highly skilled.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the idea that was kind of all around us all the time, that you needed to be highly skilled. And that if you were going to do music, you needed to develop different skills and different ways to be able to do it. And that was the environment that I was in. And with my friends, we were able to do that. And like I said, we saw examples of that around us all the time. For example, when I was in high school, this group named Earth, Wind, and Fire occasionally would
Yeah.
have to come to our high school to rehearse. They knew the band director. They were trying to get it together and all this, and they would come and rehearse. And we were asked to help them bring their stuff into the multi-purpose room, and then I would sit in and watch. And after doing this so many times, they decided that they would play for payment. They would play the high school prom. Well, that would happen to be my high school prom. So when you see what I'm saying, it was a different time
Yeah.
where music was everywhere. The idea of moving towards a goal uh, was there, and a certain kind of community and togetherness to make that happen seemed to be present. And I think between that and then, knowing that I really wanted to do film and TV. That's what I wanted to do. And I felt like being a composer was demanded of me to have all these different skills together. So I tried to get them together.
But I, well, first of all, before I forget, as it popped into my mind, have you seen the Earth, Wind, and Fire HBO special?
I have. I have. Yes. Yeah, it was good. Hmm. A lot
Thank
of
you.
things, a lot of things that I remembered about them and a lot of things that I learned.
It if that's your example, if that's the piece of clay that's been put in front of you, what a great object to have to mold to go. I want to be. The thing that still gets me is I can't believe that Philip and Maurice were the only two vocalists really that sang on all those parts. Because I never thought Maurice could ever hit that high note, but that's just me. That's just me. Um, I have the, I can see it. I have the box set of Earth, Wind, and Fire. I'm a huge Earth, Wind, and Fire fan. Okay, enough about that. Back to you. This this badge of honor that you wear, you don't take it lightly. It appears, but you've worn it since your days in high school and college. Why? Why do you keep that? Why do you keep that badge out there so that people know, so that those of us who are coming behind you know what we need to do?
Well, I'm not sure that I understand what badge of honor it is. The whole thing was just to be the best that you could possibly be. End of story, full stop. That's it. If you're gonna do this and you're looking at people like Earth, Wind, and Fire, like Miles Davis, like Herbie Hancock, like George Duke, like that, we can go on and on and on. If that's the level, then that's the level you got to get to do the thing that you say you want to do.
How,
That's it.
how do you how do you maintain that level? Because that's tough. That is
Yeah. But
pressing all the
but if
time.
you're doing what you love, it doesn't feel like work all the time.
Okay. I like
I
that.
mean, and you'll put in the time, you get around certain people. And I was, you know, at the time that, we were kids, I was around a lot of people who wanted to do music at that level, and we had all kinds of examples of what it looked like. So the work was definitely a part of it.
You won a contest and got to play the Monterey Jazz Festival. How
Hmm
old were you at that point?
I was high school. I was senior in
High
high
school?
school, so I was like 17.
Did you feel any pressure? Did somebody say, "Hey, you guys are going to play the Montreux Jazz Festival"? Did you
No,
go,
we won a contest,
"Oh,
and
won a
and and
contest"?
that was the prize was to
That was,
play at the festival. So if I was nervous about anything, it was just the idea of, wow, that's a lot of people. And but we went out and did our thing, and had, it was always brought to me that music is very special, and the idea of communicating a certain kind of feeling and point of view and joy. It has to communicate that, and so you're focused on that. At least I am focused more on that, of being able to offer that, and that the people enjoyed it and had a good time was really rewarding for me.
uh, I want to do something here. I want to play a song, which it took me a minute to find him, but we've become friends. Um, it's Forget Me Nots, and there's this guy playing saxophone on it, which I didn't recognize. And he's like, I've interviewed him, and he's like, "You didn't see me?" I go, "Dude, come on." So I've watched the video time and time again now. So here's Forget Me Nots by Patrice Rushen on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. And I hope we get the point where you can see this guy playing saxophone. He's pretty famous. He's got some new music out, and he's a really cool guy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Forget Me Nots on the Jazz Flyte Podcast.
Was it your charm or your passion? Start to believe I love you and I need you, so I send you forget-me-nots to help me to remember. Baby, please forget me now. I want you to remember. Sending you forget-me-nots.
That is Forget Me Nots, and hopefully you got a chance to see Gerald Albright playing saxophone on his. He was the guest artist on this song by this lovely young lady, Patrice Rushen.
That was Gerald's first professional recorded solo.
Was it? I am going to. He and I are going to have a long conversation. Um, the one thing, and we talked about it briefly before we started, you've done some really impressive things when it comes to award shows, Emmy Awards, NAACP Awards, Grammy Awards. You've been the musical director. First question is, how do you get that job? And what does that job entail? Go ahead.
Um, well, I guess, each thing that you do has the potential to help other things. Somebody saw me do a television special for Robert Townsend. He had 5 HBO specials that followed his movie Hollywood Shuffle, which I
Hmm.
scored Hollywood Shuffle.
Wow.
And when he got the 5 HBO specials, he asked me if I would music direct. Can we do a variety show? And yeah. So he asked me to music direct those. And the producer of that show saw me and asked me to do the Image Awards. So then I did the Image Awards, and I did the Image Awards for about 12, 13 years straight,
Wow.
and really learned a lot and enjoyed doing that, because again, it would celebrate so many aspects of art and so many aspects of Black excellence. So it was really a joy to be involved and have to music direct and work with some of my heroes, and at the same time new artists and so on and so forth, and the orchestra, to lead the orchestra and to be able to write and do the things that I trained to do in a context that was of a show. And it was from that that the Emmys came, and it was from that that the Grammys came, because the skill set for music direction is to be able to see big picture, break it down into actionable bites. In music, what that means is when everybody's talking about what they want folks to do, you got to figure out how you're going to get them
Hmm.
to do it. And then, of course, making special arrangements and writing some of the music, of casting the orchestra that's going to play, and then being able to pull all of that off within the specified specifications of the show, the budgetary concerns and the timing. And usually, I didn't always have more than about 2 weeks.
I was going to be my next question. How long did it take you to put all of this together? 2
It,
weeks?
it was I remembered it with the Image Awards because that was the one that I did the most. It was about 2 weeks. But each time that I did it, you remember a system, you figure out a system that worked. And what I said about us helping each other, many of the people that were in that orchestra were people that I knew very well. And so
Hmm.
we could get right to the music. You mentioned Gerald Albright. He played a lot of them. So did Kirk Whalum. A whole bunch of them. Gary Bias, who plays with Earth, Wind, and Fire. He did a bunch of them. There were so many and one of my best friends, in the late Ndugu Chancellor, played drums
Yes.
on almost all of the stuff. So we also had the rapport of knowing that each other was very serious and trying to protect one another and make each other shine in those situations. And right down to the people who were copying the music. And at that time, it was by hand. There was a bunch of us, and we took care of each other and made sure that everything came off well. And from each job, something else typically would happen.
So I'll say it this way. So you didn't keep the same shine. Your shine increased every project you've done. That
I'd say
I
so. I feel that way.
I just think that in today's world, maintaining a certain level of professionalism, maintaining that shine is tough to do because you have to be consistent. And there's so many people that are not consistent, don't want to be consistent, want to take a day off, want to go out and party, want to go do this, while somebody named Patrice Rushen is in the background perfecting her skills as a composer, as a producer, as a songwriter, as everything. Um, and I just don't know how people keep that up. If you have any tips on what we should do,
Well,
I'll pay you $1.295.
sometimes I ask, young people, I say, who do you like? Who do you listen to? Who are your heroes? Who do you want to be like? And sometimes they don't have any. Or the people that they admire are people that are like only a couple of years older than them. They haven't looked back at the history of not just particularly the type of music or style, but the way people succeed. And that's not something that's attached only to music or only to art. People succeed by doing certain things a certain way. You mentioned some of it in terms of a certain kind of consistency and a certain kind of drive towards the goal. And we had that. That was all of our heroes. We could see them. We could go listen to them play, or we could hear an interview or something like that would make a difference in like and touch that spark and keep it happening. And we had each other, and we weren't concerned about being famous.
Mm,
That was a
mm.
byproduct of a certain kind of success that came from a certain kind of work. So I think that some of that, and we didn't have the distraction of the internet. We did not have that distraction. If you made records, you were it was just a known idea that you were at a certain level. Everybody couldn't do it. So the
Hmm.
ones that got to do it, there was usually something about them that was special because everybody couldn't get a record deal. Everybody couldn't play in a club. Everybody couldn't play a concert. There was something typically unique or different about that person and the way that they were doing what they were doing that made people look and support on the basis of what it was that they were being offered. Now, the platform is such that the same person who can do something okay for 30 seconds has the same platform as somebody who's done it for 30 years.
Mm.
And I think that in that, there's been sort of a misunderstanding necessarily that there's a certain amount of work that is involved over time so that you have something to offer that people do want to pay attention to and that they do want to hear.
It's funny. First of all, you are so good. Um, you teach at Berkeley and where else?
I was a chair of the popular music department at USC. I'm not there now,
USC.
but I was
Okay.
doing that for 7 years. And yes, I was back and forth as a visiting professor at Berkeley.
What do you? What's the biggest change you've seen in students? Did you ever alter your curriculum? Did you change it, or did you just go? You all are a bunch of knuckleheads. Let's break this down to brass tacks, and this is how it should be done. And you have the credentials to say that. But go ahead.
Well, I don't know that there's a huge difference, except that there are more distractions that offer the illusion that it doesn't require you to pay attention and look backwards
Mm-hmm.
a little bit to understand foundationally where you're at so that you can communicate with others who do music, and then move the needle forward and know that that's a journey and it takes time and work. And without that work and without that understanding that it's going to take time and there's a developmental aspect. I don't know, funny thing is, we do other things that way. You learn to walk watching other people do it. And then one day you pull yourself up and you start trying to walk. And, sometimes you fall, but you get up and so on and so forth. And kind of get that down. And then after you've imitated the people walking, you assimilate the idea of walking. And now you move your feet faster, you're running. Oh, pick my feet up off the ground, I'm jumping. All of this stimulated from the walking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then later, you get to a point, much later, where you see Darrell Scott walking down the street and somebody say, "Oh, there goes Darrell." Say, "How you know?" It's, "Oh, I can tell the way he walked."
Right, way he walks.
You didn't try to develop your way. Your
Right.
way came as a result of that imitation, then that assimilation, then innovation. And everything is like that. And music is very much like that. And we want to skip steps. If I see any difference, I see that the idea is like, hold up, you won't be able to skip steps. That's what I'm saying. Find your heroes, the people that have done it in a way that registers with you. Do the kinds of things as they did them. Not necessarily what they did, but as they did them. Do that, succeed at that, then use that to develop and play, and then get to the point that you're playing, then your own persona starts coming out.
Every now and then, Darrell looks up on the music that he picks for these shows. I just do. Let's take a break. We're going to listen to Haven't You Heard? And if you haven't heard her talk, you need to listen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Jazz Flyte Podcast. She is Patrice Rushen. Well, let's listen to her song, Haven't You Heard?
Kind of breathe, it only says I'm looking for the perfect guy. Don't you know that I've been looking for you? Haven't you heard? I've been
Haven't You Heard from Patrice Rushen on the Jazz Flyte Podcast? Yes, that's Patrice over there. There's part of this conversation that you guys haven't heard. This is such a wonderful young lady. And the funny thing is, don't get me wrong, we're roughly the same age, so we won't talk about that. You you just seem to have such a big heart. I hear I hear the what I will call the LA personality in you that was I found out something about a particular organization out there that was totally different than the persona that was given to the rest of the world. And I had the opportunity to talk to one of the members. And he's like, okay, Darrell, you got to stop hogging the conversation. I don't want to hog the conversation. I wanted to learn. He let me know that the first thing that they did was an after school program, was a breakfast program that I knew nothing about. And the reason why they got to the level that was, let's say, noteworthy was because of the perception that someone else put on them, because they wanted them to do that. They didn't want to be that. They wanted to do the after school program, the breakfast program, the lunch programs. But it's so weird. But I hear a little bit of that in you. I just do. And I just think that's because of the city in which you were born in. How I, I I still wonder. This is a tough thing to carry on. Whether it's new musicians, are there ever any musicians that you've seen out there? Let me do this. Is there anybody out there that you are watching that you go, they really have talent, and you kind of let them alone to see where they go, or do you go, I want to step in and offer them some advice? And then
Mm.
I'll say this, like I tell my kids, if you're not going to listen, then I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Why am I offering you these gems and you don't take advantage of them? Are,
Mm.
are there are there musicians, artists out there like that?
Well, yeah, I guess I come in contact with most of the ones who really want to know.
Okay.
Um, Now that doesn't mean they're going to follow what I say, or that doesn't mean that they are going to want to take on what it means to get to where they say they want to go. Because it's a journey
Hmm.
and it's some things you have to know and things that you have to do. But one of the things I learned through teaching is, just like you said, you learn as much as you teach. And when I'm working with different individuals, it is very much individualistic. I mean, creativity is kind of like that, where, nobody really understands it totally. And so the things that you find out about it are you're really turning people on to things that would help them continue to do the thing that they do. And you give them a certain technique so that they can do it
Right.
more than once.
Hmm.
Um, I see people out there that I think, are talented and a lot of things, I don't understand, in terms of where they're going with what it is that they want to do. Um, but like said earlier, a certain kind of consistency is the thing that you kind of look for to understand, to get to understand where somebody is coming from in their art. And I don't always see that. But we learn by example, watching people. And I hope that people have a chance to go see people play and go see them actually do stuff. I took a couple kids to see the Michael Jackson movie,
Hmm.
and they were like, was it what in terms of the fever and the fervor of the
Right.
concerts, were they like that?
Right.
I said, yeah, that's what concerts used to be like. When you watch the Earth, Wind, and Fire uh,
Right.
documentary, and you see how they had to keep developing and developing their presentation,
Yes.
but you remember they could play first.
Yes. Yes.
So the presentation it didn't overshoot the idea of what was going on those records. Same thing with Parliament Funkadelic, same thing with Sly Stone. You can just go on and on and on in terms of people where the presentation began to be bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, but
Hmm.
it grew out of the music. Whereas
Music.
sometimes now you got smoke bombs and all kind of stuff going on, and four chords all night, the same, and walking across the stage this way. So the performance aspects, the musical aspects, the artistic aspects that drive things are uh, a little bit different in terms of the way that a lot of people see it, and it's about maybe recalibrating their attention towards how you get to a certain place. So there's lots of very talented people out there. I won't mention any names
Right.
per se, but I will say that those that do talk to me mostly are those who want to know some of that information, and I'm happy
Okay.
to do for them what people did for me.
I'll be moving into the room upstairs above you to pick your brain. Um, so I there's there's a song of yours that is my favorite. And it's more of an anthem, and it's not in the vein of Forget Me Not or You Remind Me or Number One. I think it's on the album Posh, and it's called This Is All I Really Know.
Mm.
It is, to me, um, a powerful song. Don't get me wrong, it got me through a lot of tough times. It did, just because of the lyrics and the style of which it is done.
Once I was lost, scared and confused, fear in my heart, doubt in my mind. Something happened that changed my life, a better way. All things come in time. I will go, 'cause I know.
And I think they remember the Forget Me Nots, they remember all of that stuff. That's a song, as far as I'm concerned, is a diamond in the rough for you. And I remember being on the radio playing that quite a bit because of how it is done. So hopefully now people are going, I gotta find, this is how I really know. It's on the album Posh. I think it's song 4. I could probably turn around and find it, but I don't want to do that. How do you come up with those lyrics? Where does that come from?
Well, let's see. I remember this was one of the songs. I like collaborating with people. So sometimes
Hmm.
I would come up with the music and have part of the lyric or a lyric concept or something like that. And other times, um, when I would collaborate with people, we would do it together. And the lyrics, this is all I really know. The majority of those lyrics came from Lynn Davis. Now, Lynn used to sing background on a whole lot of records with Jeffrey Osborne, George Duke, and myself. And we became really good friends. And I realized that she was also a good songwriter and a great, great lyricist. So when I came up with the song and the music, I believe came first. The idea of it being a certain kind of anthemic feeling was in it. A certain kind of feeling also from the roots of the church was in it.
Hmm.
And I knew that she would know what to do with it. And that's what happened, and she took it and came back and we went back and forth a couple of times, but the majority of the lyrics, were hers.
I People get on me about this, but I think musicians, artists are geniuses because I don't know how many songs you've done totally, but for how many songs you've done totally, as I say, in that file cabinet to the left is 122 songs that never made it to press. And sometimes you can go back and look at that and pull something out and it becomes a hit. But there's so much music stored in your head. And then if you do something new, something changes. You find a different hook, you find a different this. And that's what I think to me is amazing. That's why there are times I just love to be a fly on the wall in the studio and just listen to the conversations. And I get that technology has changed a lot of that where people send you stuff via file, via computer, blah, blah, blah. But I've said at some point, hopefully before I move along, be like the Hollywood Bowl. And I want you musicians to sit in the audience. And I just want to hear stories of things you've done, of things that lessons you've learned, of things you've come by, and just to hear that conversation. I think that's to me that's a wonderful idea. I don't know if I would ever shut up asking questions, um, but in the like I once again the conversations that I've had, so many other things come to mind that would take up 4 or 5 days of me just talking to you. That's enough. Um, what are you doing now? What projects are you working on? What's on Patrice Rushen's plate?
Well, I've got a few things that will feel like different things, but they're all the same.
Hmm.
Concerts. I've just got back from Japan and played concerts there and did a concert in Chicago last week. And then I'm coming your way
Yes.
at the end of August, and I'm really looking forward to being in Cleveland to play. So, doing some concert work, which is great. And having more time to focus on a little bit of performing has been really good because the people want to hear this
Right.
music and they wanted to hear me do it. So now there's
Right.
time to do some of that. So I'm having a good time. And then I also write symphonic music. So those of you, you mentioned before that there's all these aspects of what I do. Your listeners can go to my website, www.patricerushen.com, and there's different tabs and you can see different things that I do and keep up with the different stuff because I love doing a lot of different things and I have a chance to write symphonic music as well. So I've got a piece that I'm working on now for Juilliard, and then I have an assignment starting in September as the composer in residence for the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra. So I'm really interested in that. I'll be able to do some different kinds of things, and I'm excited about that too. So all of that is in play, and still being able to lecture and teach when I am asked, and having fun.
When when does Patrice rest? What do you do for relaxation?
Oh, I
What?
spend time. Oh man, yeah, I spend time with my family and I like yoga and I like meditation and things like that because those things feed how you interpret things that happen in your life, and that gives me lots of things to play about and to talk about. But just take time, every day to rest and be thankful that the kinds of things that are happening, and try to continue to find ways to keep moving forward. That's what's up for me.
I am going to say this. This has been an absolute pleasure
Thank-
on a lot of different levels. Just to get the opportunity to talk to you, to hear the things you have to say, and hopefully I will not embarrass myself when you come to Cleveland. But if you see some guy running towards you with his arms open, it's only because I want a hug.
No problem.
And that'll be it. Patrice Rushen, I greatly thank you. I greatly appreciate you being on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have enjoyed this conversation, this is right up there with all the best I've ever done. You can listen next week. You can hit subscribe, and you can hear some of the other 140 episodes that we've got out there. We might be making some small changes here and there, but we'll let you know. But once again, Patrice Rushen, thank you.
Thank you.
That's a couple. You can't see that one, and you can't see the other two that I have on the floor, and you can't see the 3 or 4 CDs I've got over there. You get a lot of music, and it's good music. That's all of it. And if you get the chance, check out This Is All I Really Know if you can find it. I can't say thank you enough. It's been an absolute pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, join us again next week on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I hope you enjoy these stories and soulful melodies that grew through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.